CIA on her neighbor, who was one of the hijackers, and they did nothing there as well. This seems to be the norm again and again and again, that at least some of these people were protected at the highest levels. The al-Bayoumi story has now gotten out there into the mainstream, but this wasn't really new. Again, it's something I reported on.
It's been confirmed to me through FBI friends at the highest level. Two of the terrorists in 9/11 were on the CIA payroll. Two of them. So were on the U.S. CIA payroll.
Again, when you look at that, you know, you've had people like Richard Clark come out, talk about al-Bayoumi. We certainly have the Saudi funding. If you believe the bin Laden stories, there's a lot more connections to Pakistan than there are on the named places of war on terror, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Especially when you talk about the funding prior to 9/11 with General Mahmoud Ahmed out of the ISI. And when you talk about the Central Intelligence Agency, the ISI, the CIA, MI6, they've kind of worked hand in hand since the 70s. I also put that in there. And the Mujahideen bin Laden network in Russia.
Well, guys, I'm here joined with Jason Bermas, who you just saw in that brief clip. Let me just bring my mic over here. And we're going to talk about the official story of 9/11, because I think it really starts with that. The government has this idea that 19 Arab hijackers took a bunch of all four of those planes, got past security with some box cutters, and hijacked the planes and flew them into all these, you know, sensitive targets, including the Pentagon, like an hour and a half after they knew the first flight was hijacked. So that they would have been on alert and had known about this. This is the military command center. We had to have known about this. All the people who were in charge that day, again, it seems that they failed us on 9/11, and we need new hearings. Do you think Trump will come through on that, Jason? That's a great point, Jason, and I'm glad you made it. And in fact, I invited along another expert on an element of this story to join us as the panel. I'd like to introduce Mr. George Webb. And George Webb has done some real deep dive investigation to a fascinating company that came on my radar in my 9/11 research, a company called P-Tech.
Well, it's great seeing Jason again. I did a show with you a while ago, Jason. It's been a while, but it's great to see you. And I'm no expert like Jason is on 9/11. He's been like the day after, you know. I just do the communications piece of it, and I was covering aspiring in Congress using these encrypted BlackBerries. And I had a source. I was looking at people using this encrypted military-grade encryption on Capitol Hill, 6 people from about 2004, maybe 2005, all the way until 2020. And this source called me and said, no, it goes back to P-Tech. It goes back to Jack Lew at the Secretary of Treasury, giving these. I'm getting a little bit of a feedback here. I'll turn my.
Really made me just get so much respect and credibility for the guy back. Oh, hey, what's up, Bernie?
Hello. So sorry, I've been listening the whole time, and I just have to add in my own 2 cents on a couple things. Number one, I definitely would not start with John Brennan. He he has a lifelong career of lying under oath. So, I don't see him telling the truth. And I would actually take Tucker Carlson's choice of Alex Jones, who is documented calling out 9/11 6 months before it happened, and be like, where the F did you get that information from? Because regardless.
Well, hold on. Let me stop you there as an insider on that whole thing. Like, obviously I know Alex, but this is not a conversation we ever had. I'll just say that William Cooper beat him by a month and a half. Like, everybody's seen the clip of Alex Jones saying it. Cooper said the same thing a month and a half beforehand.
I don't know.
The Hold the Pale Horse is the one that got me into all this stuff. That was the book.
Well, look, I think Bill Cooper has his big problems. Like, a lot of people talk about
the driver shot. Yeah, there's tons of issues.
I mean, but listen, Behold the Pale Horse has some really good stuff in it. And then it has stuff that totally discredits him, like saying that the Bilderberg Group meets in a submarine at the Arctic Circle every year.
But
Or
that's a classic government agent where it's like 10 to 15% is the bang on truth, and then 75 to 90 or 85%
I think he was just a guy that liked the attention,
intentional
man. I think
counterintelligence,
he was the
right?
guy that was telling some truth, and he saw the attention he got, and he really liked, like, for instance, the other big thing, and you'll like this, Jeremy, in the book that's just out of this world, is that he says he watched a videotape of aliens showing a hologram of Jesus being crucified. It's in the book. It's incredible. Like, so basically he watched the 7mm film. But I will say this, he was the guy that called out bin Laden and New York in June before. I'm also going to say that this is a conversation I had with Jones, actually, because I wanted to see what he thought about what happened to Bill Cooper. And you got to remember, they're both Texas guys, right? They were both in that area, that general vicinity. From the word that
later on in his life, Bill Cooper said that he believed a lot of the alien stuff was placed in with the Trilateral Commission stuff and the CFR stuff on purpose to try to like throw him off. Like
it was later he did that, but again, Bill Cooper was a true. Well, he
just said Osama bin Laden was about to be blamed for an attack. Didn't Alex Jones state that it was going to be on the trade centers, or gave exponentially more information than Bill Cooper?
Both clips are like 30 seconds long, and they're both pretty vague and bin Laden and attacks. And I think he does mention the World Trade Center, and like when Alex says it, attack the World Trade Center again and use their asset.
That's a major piece of evidence, though, right? So it's like, even if you stole the one part from William Cooper, or had the same source giving both of them that, someone else or the original source gave Alex even more information with the World Trade Center. Like, how do you
just not buying it, man? I mean, 93, the World Trade Center was a target and hit. It was all over the place that the World Trade Center was still a terror target. There was all those documents that still had it in the crosshairs after the fact. I'm not saying that like Jones stole that from Cooper. I'm just saying it was in the ether. In tech, those guys were both very. You gotta understand.
I have to put down this fact from a legal perspective. That is premeditated information, and that both of them needs to be investigated in the court, and who fed them this stuff, because it shows prior knowledge regardless. And if you're saying like it's either they just predicted, it's like,
well, no, when I'm saying that I was there on.
Well, what about the X-Files episode?
What I'm saying,
the writers from that show, the script.
Hold on. What I'm saying is there was a network in Texas where there was shortwave radio, there was GCN, which is like, internet radio, very, very rare, where like there was just a handful of guys that were on the air in that area, and they were all listening to each other. John Statmiller was another person that was during that era. So all I'm saying is, from listening to the old school 90s stuff from them, bin Laden had been brought up, World Trade Center had been brought up. I don't necessarily think that anybody had direct knowledge of anything. I think that they were listening to each other and kind of borrowing from each other's research. Going back to how William Cooper died, for those that don't know, he got in a shootout with police. But again, I had asked Jones about that, and he told me, and again, who knows, but he said that William Cooper knew that he was about to be arrested for tax evasion, because they'd come around and said that we're going to have to serve these warrants. He went down to the sheriff's office with his gun, and he said, anybody comes to my house to come and arrest me for this, I'm going to shoot. And he did. He killed a guy. They came to arrest him. He killed the sheriff, and then they killed him. They didn't ask questions. They unloaded on him. That was it. And
clearly had
well, I'm just saying that he was going to be arrested for tax evasion. And look, I don't know that Cooper had sources on. I think Cooper put out some good stuff. I think he put out some really goofy stuff. I think that a lot of people are ego driven. Also, I think again, you look at somebody like Robert
He was
Lazar.
also a pioneer before the internet when this was all VHS tapes, and
Sure.
that's how I started with loose change. We bought a tower stack, and I used to run 10 copies at a time, and I'd burn stacks and stacks of them, and I'd put them all over Harvard, MIT, BU, everywhere, every college in Boston I would go to, Emerson,
And look, before I did, those films, I literally, before burning DVDs, I was burning CDRs of lectures from David Icke or Alex Jones's Road to Tyranny, or really how I met the other loose change guys is that I was giving out discs of just raw videos of the demolition of the towers that had shown the squibs, that people didn't have those videos. And I had a third and fourth video of the underside of the plane and the supposed flash, that whole let's roll 911.org thing.
Original footages?
What's that?
Do you still have all original copies of these videos?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
I mean, listen, I'm a info junkie. I have stacks of hard drives. I still have the original burned DVDs that were sent to us from C-SPAN that you could order. Basically, before they had the archive site and you could just digitally download everything, you would go in for DVDs and they would burn them to disk. And so I have a bunch of the 9/11 hearings on DVD burned directly from C-SPAN. The other archive that I used when we got in was a thing called the Vanderbilt TV archive. And I encourage people to use it to this day because it's excellent. But basically had all television from the 50s from the major networks. So I'd go through on dates and news stories and try to get these news clips, and you could order them by segment, but you'd only get like a short little bit. So you didn't even have the whole transcript of the segment. And so I'd put in my order for like 4 or 5 clips. It'd be like $137. I'd wait, I don't know, a week or two. All of a sudden, I'd get a burned disc from, which I was supposed to return. I never did. It's supposed to be a library thing. And I would get the raw footage from there. But the footage that I mainly showed to those guys before I would order from DVD were from the Nutella networks, Morpheus, Kazaa, basically a bunch of the peer-to-peer programs before LimeWire. Everybody was big on like LimeWire and BearShare. I was way before that. And I would literally...
Jason, do you understand you might have the largest, I guess,
probably not
of evidence for
I know some
the
people.
new commission?
They have been digitized. So much of this has been, some of the stuff has been
All of it
digitized.
has, and I'm guaranteeing you, in 2025 at this point, I bet probably 50% of it has been altered in some way. So what we should do is on September 11th, 2025, do a full day stream of uploading all of your original videos. But you need to record them first before it connects to the internet, because there's the possibility that shit's tagged and it's been expunged.
Well, listen, man, I've seen a bunch of the bad edited videos. The no plane people who will literally edit out the plane.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Oh, I didn't want to see this.
Copies of these videos
cloned over the thing.
So you have digital copies, but on analog assets. So it's like a book, right? It's it can't be altered. And that it's for all of the ridiculous conspiracy theories that have been put forward and come out since, that by reviewing all of the original footage and showing it all, it's well, here's all of the firefighters with the bomb blast happening, their testimony. Even though most of them are dead now. It shows that they're there. The different planes showing, or the plane angles showing that, oh, that actually is a plane, definitely not a hologram, or is it not a passenger plane? Is it a military plane? And that we need to pressure for a real 9/11 investigation and declassification. And the second major thing that should be FOIA'd is the Pentagon security cameras, because how did the most secure building in the world only have a couple of grainy freaking picture captures, yet somehow there was also a bunch of Israelis with a van that supposedly had explosive in it that were positioned recording it and seeing cheering. You know, it's like
Those are separate incidents.
That's the issue.
absolutely they are. I'm just saying, like, for
Pentagon's really
comparison,
important
how
to
is
talk about, and there's a lot of issues with the Pentagon. I mean,
oh yeah, like it was
whole-
closed under renovation, all of that shit. Obviously, it's a setup inside job. It's like it's just so undeniable. But the actual video evidence of getting the security cameras of there, that I guarantee from at least one of the buildings, one of like the sites,
I
there's
want all the AMEC
some video
workers who were
that will
there to
show.
testify why they were doing a $258 million refurbishment and weren't none of their workers were in that part of the building when the plane hit. Why not? Why weren't they at work that day and doing this renovation and like overspeed? If I was a contractor, I'd be having my workers there every single Tuesday. I mean Tuesday, yeah, every single day they'd be there working. It doesn't make any sense. And I'd have Peter Jansen, the head of that corporation, come and testify alongside Donald Rumsfeld's dead, right? So you can't.
No Rummy. Rummy's been gone a while these days. Look,
we can get his buddy there. We can get two of Rumsfeld's buddies. I'd like to see Peter Jansen, who is the head of AMEC Corporation, which also was a contractor who was hired to clean up the rubble and the debris at World Trade Center after 9/11. They were like the first contractor on the scene, which is also suspicious if you're doing a cover-up of demolition explosives. So I want them investigated. And I also would like Dwayne Andrews of SAIC Corporation investigated as to, you know, why they're basically the experts on nanothermite technologies. And a lot of their scientists wrote a majority of this NIST report, which was basically a cover-up, you know, and how there was a conflict of interest there with
exactly. Literally 1,000. I bet you there's probably 5,000 different separate incidents of government agencies or people that did the exact opposite of the protocol on that day. And every single one of those needs to be documented and investigated, as well as every single sketchy business deal that happened magically on that day, such as all of Enron disappearing, such as all that gold disappearing, such as, you know, like there's just so many impossibilities that all happened for the first time on that specific time, that in a court, in a real investigation, each one of those is an actual criminal crime that needs to actually see a court and be investigated. And
absolutely. And another thing, there's a lot of disinformation that's going around. It seems prevalent. There's a lot of bad research that gets propped up. You know, I see a lot of this. You know, Pam Bondi posted one file out of the JFK thing that said an Israeli intelligence service and then nothing else. It's like kind of like alluding to Israel did JFK and all the people saying that Israel did JFK. And I've been researching the case for 20 years, and the closest connection I could find is that maybe Reuben Efron through, you know, Angleton may have been like this connection, and that they're the APAC thing, but it's not a key thing, because look at John McCone. John McCone was put in the CIA director for Kennedy, and he was against all that. So it just, there's all these conflicts in the story. But the same thing you get with like these people saying the 5 dancing Israelis are the one, and the Gelatin B art group are the ones that rigged the towers for demolition. That's just not possible. There's many other avenues. There's the Ace Elevator Company that did an elevator remodernization just a couple months before. That would probably be the main one I would probe. Second one I would probe is Turner Construction, which did a series of fireproofing upgrades in the towers on those key floors going back to the 1990s.
Jeremy, can you pull
and
up
the security company for the World Trade Center, which was Securicom Stratesec, of which Marvin Bush sat on the board of directors. And 2 of the guys that were the CEO of that company has recently resurfaced. Here he is on LinkedIn, working for another company called Eigerhawk Ltd. Really interesting. You know, he has a couple activity on LinkedIn posting some praises about how George H.W. Bush came to speak at Lafayette College, where he got his degree. I wonder if Lafayette College has any student pictures of this guy or any of the people that went to school with him, because there's no pictures of this guy anywhere publicly. And he lives in Spook Central. So it's kind of interesting that this is the guy who ran security at the World Trade Center, the head the CEO of that company, because it's certainly someone I'd want to talk to in a new investigation and bringing this undercover. He's also on the board of he's an investor and an investment banker, and he's one of the guys that bought those put option stocks on before 9/11 on United Airlines, and so I would like to see that investigated again too. That would be a great place to start, because I'm sure he has a lot of knowledge about that. And the dancer is providing intelligence cover. Exactly. There's no way that they could have gotten inside the building and rigged these things, and it's a whole different group of characters.
That
They obviously had prior knowledge and were sent there to
Jeremy,
film the event, but people are saying that these guys in the Gelatin B art students with the BB-8 fuses for bus bars. They had boxes for bus bars which can be used for wiring explosives. So therefore, they were the guys who were who rigged the buildings. Maybe they
let me jump in on Gelatin B, because I got something that's really interesting. Probably most people aren't aware of it. Okay, so what you're talking about is the fact that the World Trade Center actually cordoned off these massive floors for quote unquote art students. And Gelatin B was just one of the art student groups that were in that area. Since then, I've tried to find every single video by them, about them after the fact. They actually have an art book out there that is worth thousands of dollars if you can get it. And we're going to talk about the photograph that's on the cover of that art book in a moment. Okay, yes, there's the E-team. What you're looking at is they were actually able, in the World Trade Center, to take one of the massive windows out without setting off any alarms. They built what you're seeing right there to stick out, and then on, I think it was is either the 91st or the 101st floor, go outside, and then this gentleman right here takes a picture. He actually hires a helicopter, and this guy named Josh Harris. Okay, he is the guy that commissions this guy right here, this photograph. And if you look right here at this photograph, that right there is the art student. Now, why am I bringing up Josh Harris? He is an internet mogul that basically came up with YouTube and video on the internet before it was a real thing. And what's really super interesting is not only did he do that, but he believes that the FBI is after him because of connections to the Mossad 9/11. Well, he did a documentary film called We Live in Public. I cannot recommend this film enough. It is a must watch. So he had hundreds of millions of dollars at one point. He had a ridiculous amount of money. So, and by the way, this is going to get even more into 9/11 and often do a kook thing. So he actually builds this facility in the middle of Manhattan in 1999, where he is recording everybody in it 24/7. Okay.
Sorry, what's the name of the book? We Lie in Public.
We Live in Public. 2009 is the documentary. Okay. And then if you see the cover for the documentary, it's all these people in little boxes. Okay. So an individual that I had met before We Are Change was a thing, when it was New York 9/11 Truth in New York City, before we released Loose Change 2nd edition, is a guy named Nico Haupt. And Nico Haupt is the progenitor of the no plane theory. Westcom, no plane, zero plane drills. So we're talking to him, and he tells me about how he's part of an art project. Josh Harris art project, big thing in New York City, blah, 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 blah. I have no idea what he's talking about. I watched this documentary, and Nico Haupt is one of the people in Josh Harris's experiment in We Live in Public. In other words, he's being surveilled by all these things all the time. Newsflash, Josh Harris is a little bit sadistic, so he hired ex-CIA interrogation officers and would put them in rooms with people like Nico Haupt. And in the video, Nico Haupt is in an interrogation room with this CIA officer in his underwear, and he is told to strip down naked, and he does. Just
That
balls
sounds
out.
like some documenting of MK Ultra practice right there.
Very observant of you, sir. So what happens to Josh Harris and this whole underground thing is they had a large firing range down there and all sorts of automatic weapons. So they were worried that another Heaven's Gate cult thing was going to happen, and the NYPD raids it before New Year's Eve on 2000. It just gets everybody out there. But all I'm saying is that Josh Harris not only has a connection to the Israeli art project possibility and literally commissioned the photograph, knew the Gelatin Bee crowd, but then will be involved in a project that has the guy that literally started the no planes theory in like a mind control on video.
With the CIA handler.
Mind controlling that guy. He was in one of these videos. I forget which one it was, but he would go around to all the people that would, basically the Robert Grodins of Robert Grodin's the guy that sat in JFK Plaza and Dealey Plaza and handed out the truth for 60 years now. He was like 19 when it happened, like our age when 9/11 happened. So for JFK, but like a lot of these guys that would go and sit outside at World Trade Center and Ground Zero and hand out literature, right? And then Nico Haupt was kind of like this agent provocateur who would come around and like he was clearly like mentally deranged or being controlled by somebody to come out there and there's a number of these groups. You still see like the trolls will come around. I've seen a couple in the chat tonight of just like posting the same kind of disinformation stuff, and this is how they've made the truthers look crazy, and demonize the 9/11 truth.
Great paid counterintelligence, just like Lou Elizondo is for the Pentagon.
Yes, precisely. Well, a little different.
He's a manager. Where
let me also say this about Nico.
This would be like Lou Elizondo's hate group, basically. Yeah.
He also hooked up with Judy Wood, who, again, if I dare not bow to the direct energy weapon crowd and Judy Wood, well, let me tell you something about Judy Wood. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is why I just can't take any of it. Listen, before Judy Wood put out her book, I had read a lot of the white papers. They had been online. I'm willing to look at anything. Nico Haupt and Judy Wood did a video in like 2008, 2009. You can't find it on YouTube anymore because it was so bizarre, where Nico Haupt is in, again, his underwear. Apparently that's a thing for him.
And several MK Ultras documents.
He's in a giant pumpkin mask. And the disinfo loose change bastards, like, Judy Wood's in the background of this video. And I mean, me and Jones had some good laughs over that one. I'm not going to lie. But the guy, like you said,
someone pull that up and compare it to the first video of him in his underwear, because that's case studies of MK Ultra practice.
The highlight of the show tonight. I just wanted, for scientific people that are interested in the science, my friend Jonathan Coles is an engineer and a member of AE 9/11 Truth, and he does an excellent segment where he just debunks every single claim that Judy Wood makes about the towers. There's another great interview with her and Greg Jenkins on my 9/11 playlist on my channel. People can check out that Greg Jenkins interview as well, where he it's the only time she's actually done an interview with an actual scientist, and he just this is the one right here.
Jeremy, can I ask a question about I read a little bit of her stuff and saw her book and the vaporizing television antenna at the top, What's the explanation of that?
The explanation of that is it's just such a large building. It's literally an acre square is the like 1 acre of, if you were to take a cross section of that building, that's how big one floor would be in the World Trade Center. So what you're seeing is is literally the smoke. It's smoke and also concrete that's being pulverized. So there's a number of things. If it were a direct energy weapon, you'd probably see light coming off of it, because anytime you have a photon, it's E equals nu H nu, right? So it's the frequency is going to knock off electrons if it's a high enough energy to vaporize steel or do anything, and it's not going to be able to penetrate the inner structure, because there's something called the skin effect, where anytime you have a conductor, you can't penetrate the conductive surface onto the inside with an electromagnetic weapon. It's just
I thought there was some kind of nuclear device she was talking about that had a
there's
tremendous
a number of mini nuke people. James Fetzer was another guy that was like really came out. He's also been a Kennedy assassination kind of disinfo operative as well.
Him and another guy put out, because again, Fetzer was pretty mainline in the beginning, but he and Jack something or other put out this whole thing where they were saying all these photographs were fake. Let me just say this, like about that research, because I know what you're talking about with the spire coming down, and I also think there are certainly some questions on some of the cars that were extremely burnt out that don't seem to be in the major area. I'm not saying that it's just thermite or traditional explosives, right? I have no idea. I just when I see the directed energy weapon stuff, I've studied, what's out there about dues, and there's not a lot out there, right? There's really more about, these large metal, the rods from God that are projected from space and come down. We've seen some of the laser technology shown on ships. You can actually watch that. And again, you'd only have to be in a certain light spectrum to say that. As far as a very interesting, quote unquote, light or possible laser on 9/11, you need just go to the second plane strike. If you haven't seen it, the close up of the World Trade Center video just prior to the plane coming in, there's clearly what is a laser pointer, a large scale one, on the tower, right where it hits. It's moving around left to right. Have you seen that video, Jeremy?
So, Jason,
I don't believe I have. I'm just trying to find the video.
Bring it up.
Jonathan Cole in this.
It's one of the close-ups.
This is why I had to state that your collection of all the originals is so important, because it's the original videos, and if it's energy weapons, we would see distortions in the air around them, and if it's like a laser, it would be like it would have to be very large. You'd see melting sort of thing. The laser that you're talking about most likely would be the laser guidance of the drone controlled airplane or whatever it was, especially if that's exactly where it went in. And as far as nukes or mini nukes, that can pretty much be ruled out because there's no documentation of the massive spike of radiation that would have come with it, unless it was a different type of.
This is all disinformation, and it functions in a special way. I pointed this out before. The mini nukes thing is saying that there wasn't access to the buildings for a long period of time, so that someone could have just snuck this in real quick. And then the DEWs takes it to outer space, and the Star Wars program and all that stuff, which I've studied all that stuff. I know a ton about it. There isn't a lot out there. There is a lot out there if you know where to look and find it. And that's a lot of what the research I've done here on my AlienScientist channel is, debunking a lot of the nonsense in the UFO community, and also the 9/11 disinformation as well, like pointing that stuff out and sorting it out for people with science, and showing people, who the more credible sources are. Like I said, Jonathan Cole would be a good presentation to watch, and I'd love to see you interview him, George. and see, this guy he goes over the tower spire thing in here and does a demonstration. We've done experiments with all this stuff because first it was actually a good friend of Jason Bermas here. You'll recall Jim Meggs. Remember James Meggs, who claimed on the debate that he had with you years ago that thermite couldn't be used to melt vertical steel columns. And that was a ridiculous notion, and you guys were silly for even suggesting such a thing, right? Well, it turns out that Popular Mechanics has an issue from like 1938 where the Skyride Chicago in Chicago was actually demolished and they show pictures of how they did it with thermite to melt the vertical steel columns. So that
I have to bring up that proves that, Jeremy, the company you said, that second one that was in doing the fireproofing or whatever, it's that they had specific access from where they were to go into the elevator shafts, and the towers were their main reinforcement was those central elevator shafts, and that they could have gone in at night and then just put the thermites on each level in those specific spots. That's how you got the controlled demolition. And then it with thermite as well, and the metal
thermal expansion that NIST claims brought the towers down, right? Because if you have a natural fire, it would heat the concrete slab and the steel at the same temperature, and they both have about the same thermal coefficient of expansion. So anyways, the science is all nonsense. I mean, we've covered that ridiculously on this channel, but while I have Jason here, I really want to ask him, would you debate Jim Meggs again now that it's been like, I mean, could you imagine?
In a heartbeat. It's actually been, 20 years almost. It'll be 20 years this September 11th. I debated him on the...
Get Amy Goodman to try to rehost this.
I can't believe she's still around, but she is. I would love to do that. And the funny thing about Meggs is, number one, Meggs is now like a mouthpiece for mainstream history on a bunch of those shows, like The Food That Built America and all those things. I see him on like the American Heroes channel all the time. Even more interesting, I'm sure you're aware of the book that came out a few years back called Chaos about Charles Manson. James Meggs was that guy's editor when he first started on that as I forget what magazine. I think he was working for like Revolver or something like that. One of the magazines. James Meggs was his direct editor, and he has a big conversation that Meggs actually let him go pretty big, but they never published it, right? They never end up, I mean, he ended up working on that book for 20 years. So I always thought that was a really interesting connection, is that, Meggs is involved in that one. And then, I mean, they push him all over the place. James Meggs knew what he was doing. He knew what their job was at Popular Mechanics. It was to run cover. And
Mechanics, I think, brought James in. I don't think he was there I'm not sure exactly when he came.
He was the main editor at the time, but he had been brought in like a year or two before that. Remember, it was him and David Dunbar was the other guy that they had written the book together. And Dunbar never did another debate or interview after that one. And I was actually supposed to be on later on in the day against Meggs again on Glenn Beck when he was on CNN. Meggs didn't want anything to do with us after the debate in the morning, so we got the call that they weren't going to use us, and they just had Meggs on that evening. That was a big day. I got shamed by Adam Carolla, who's now come around on a lot of these subjects. I remember I was on that show, and Carolla was like, "Well, I hope you go back to making pizza." And I'm like, thanks so much. And next up, Ozzy Osbourne. Fantastic. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I was dealing with on the 5th anniversary of 9/11, when we had like 10,000 people out at the World Trade Center. We'd given away 10,000 shirts that said Investigate 9/11, and they just didn't come down. The only place you could see us marching was on C-SPAN that day. It was a complete media blackout. And, you talk about the momentum we had. I talked about the momentum we had running up to that 5th anniversary. Go watch me on C-SPAN at the Charlie Sheen event that went on. I talk at the very end of that, and I say, if we don't do it now, we're not going to have another chance. Like, it's going to go into history.
Except 2025 is the chance, and you need to get Kurt's, whatever his name, Tucker, and all of you guys at 9/11 or at the World Trade Center site this 2025. September 11th.
Oh man, we should do a big event in New York this year.
20th anniversary. You know what? I haven't thought about it much, and I should, because we're already less than 5 months out. But you're right. It is the 20th anniversary, and maybe that's what I need to be dedicating myself to.
Disclosure. It's allowed right now, and this is how you start the grassroots. You start advertising it now, whether you even show up or not. You just create the event, and enough people will show up demanding a new investigation that there's no way that it can't be addressed. And you even have Mel Gibson, the Hollywood ambassador Trump made him, and he's now retweeting Curt and Tucker's interview, also stating that there needs to be a new investigation and disclosure, and you got to get everybody to the site this anniversary for the purpose of demanding a new investigation in 9/11.
Well, Mel's known for a long time.
More debate.
For those who don't know, Hunton Gibson used to go on Jones's show all the time and talk about 9/11. Hunton Gibson used to go on the show prior to 9/11. And, Mel was extremely close with his father. His father lived, I think, to 102 years old. In fact, that appearance on Rogan, he talks about getting stem cell treatment for his father that ended up, giving him a few more years. So, Mel Gibson is somebody that is actually pretty politically astute in the Hollyweird arena. But at the same time, he's got his demons. Obviously, people love to throw the anti-Semite card at him, although he's done the mea culpas. But even, you pull the video or the audio of him screaming at his baby mama, you put those unnatural things in your breast and you're serving them to my son. He's going on a total mental. Listen, we all have our bad moments. The ones that get caught on tape are bad.
Exactly. And none of that matters. What matters is that it's the 24th anniversary. So you just get as many people and pieces and media coverage and grassroots movement there demanding to reopen and declassify all 9/11. And then by the 25th anniversary, in 2026,
maybe we can get enough momentum over the next year. And this is it. The Trump administration, he's the only president that's going to be able to do this, man. He's the only one that's going to be able to pull this off. I mean, you just look at all the puppets they've put into power, and they just tried to put another one in with Kamala Harris, who I explained she got her deep state creds as the district attorney in California by blocking the reinvestigation into RFK's assassination. So, yeah, we got to get these people out. We have to get the right people in, and there needs to be arrests and perp walks of former politicians. I mean, Letitia James for tax evasion this is like, and people just getting fired. Is no more slaps on the wrist. The last accountability thing we've had in government, you're right, Jason, was the Iran-Contra hearings. And we don't even know that we got the full extent of that, because
not only did we not get the full extent of it, the guy they made the face of it, Oliver North, who wasn't the face of it. Listen, Daddy Bush was running a lot of that. He got what? He got book deals, radio shows, and TV appearances, and became a millionaire. That's not how you discourage illegal drug running. Like, what are we doing? Guys, I do have to wrap it up pretty quick in the next few minutes, if that's all right.
This is it, man. We had a great show tonight. We covered a lot of key stuff. I just hope that this is the momentum that we needed. I mean, seeing Curt Weldon on that show, I mean, how did you guys feel? I was just like, I really felt great, especially when Tucker, the best part was Tucker apologizing for being wrong and admitting that I was young, I was stupid, and, I was wrong about this. And if we could get guys like Michael Shermer and others to come around and it would not that his opinion has really mattered on this, because I took him to school on Dark Horse, and I'm trying to get him to go in that debate part 2 on this, along with Mick West, who won't touch this topic either. He's too busy. He's just too confident in debunking all the stupid UFO videos and nonsense now. It's just, but yeah, the skeptics of what they've tried over the years to really shut down the truth, it's all ending. It's all falling apart with Curt on there, Curt Weldon coming out with that testimony. He's the guy. I mean, they can't impeach him. So
we need Curt Weldon with a firefighters memorial and protest demanding 9/11 disclosure and new investigation at the site on September 11th this year, and that he's the perfect one because of the biggest crimes that Curt felt responsible for, but that needs to be prosecuted, and it's not on him, is that where he documents that Osama was in Iran, all of the officials, anyone that voted and put the American army into Afghanistan and Iraq, claiming that's treason, because they notably had intelligence he wasn't there, and that you declared war on other countries off of false information.
George, where can people find your work here?
It's great to see Jason again, by the way, and all your great work on 9/11. You're the real hero, and you and Jeremy. I'm on Real George Webb 1 on Twitter, and georgewebb.substack.com. Thank you.
And Jason, real quick, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me across the socials. I'm live like 3 to 5 times now, every single day. Find me at X, at Jason Bermas, Jason Bermas on YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble. And please share all the stuff. All my documentary films, by the way, everybody, they're free. I want you to share them. I want you to rip them. I want you to embed them. I want you to take out clips and share them. Whatever you can do, because it's not about campus. Yeah, it's about the information. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life is that I won't be around forever. My work will. And look, the truth is the truth. It's not a right or left thing. It's not conservative, liberal. I never go down those roads. It's down the line. What actually happened, and can we get a sense of accountability? So, Jeremy, I want to thank you for having this forum and doing a couple hours on a subject that really still matters at the heart of all the issues that we're currently talking about.
It does. Thank you. Thank
Jeremy,
you for joining me,
before you
Jason.
shut it down, George, do you have a little bit of time? Because I would love to